Folks, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show. And it's been too long, but what an honor to bring back really not just an incredible musician and an amazing producer, a guy who fused really just a lot of talent with really, in some ways, a lot of luck. And sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. But when you put those two together, you wind up with a legacy that is a bit awe-inspiring and hard to tackle. So we're going to try to do set two here. Norbert Putnam, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
My pleasure, Jake.
You know, man, I just, before it leaves my mind, I wanted to ask you about this album you produced in, let's say it's around 79, and I'm trying to figure out, it's called Mountain Moods with Larry Knechtel, and I was wondering about, was your connection to that Jim Horn, or did you know Larry too?
No, that's when I first met Larry. I knew him, though. I knew all the work he did in L.A. Right?
You did know, so you knew of him.
Yeah, but I had not met him. You know, he was the only guy to ever win a Grammy for playing a backing track.
Exactly, dude.
You know, Bridge Over Troubled Waters is one of the greatest piano parts ever played.
Wow.
You know, and you know that was just a small part of what he could do. But how I came to do it, what was the guy's name? I came down to Nashville, ran MCA. Jimmy Boyne, right?
Yeah.
Jimmy comes down to Nashville and starts selling a lot of records with the country guys. And he gave little deals to Jim Horn and favorite players. A little deal, I mean, they had like $10,000.
Right.
To go and make a little record.
That's unbelievable.
And I did. Did I produce Jim's record? Maybe I did, or maybe I just engineered it. I can't remember. But Larry called me up and said, he liked Jim's record. You want to do this with me? And I said, God, I just like to hang with you. Beach Boys, you know? And you know, not only could he play the piano, but he was one of L.A.'s sight-reading bass players, too.
Well, I didn't. Are you kidding me? I did not know that.
He was such a good sight reader. You know the Elvis special? The Elvis special.
Well,
The 69 comeback or something, right?
Yeah.
Knechtel's playing in the orchestra and playing all those bass parts that were written out for him. And those were difficult parts. Well, they would call Knechtel's part was really difficult. Now, there are a lot of great sight readers in L.A., I might say. But
there are guys that can read fly paper. They can read, fly. I mean, so you were. This is really fascinating because I did a deep dive, and I really wanted to talk. This is to me fascinating, and there was a big write up on it. But last time you talked about that classic story about. Oh man, the cat, the Elvis session in Nashville where the cat came in with the new classical guitar, and then the guitar wound up getting smashed on during the session. It wound up breaking. But this is the thing. Here's Norbert Putnam sitting up on top of a warehouse in Memphis drinking a gin and tonic, and I really was wondering if you could talk about, I guess just sort of like your relationship with Elvis. What made the Stax sessions? You said something to the effect that the sessions at Stax in Memphis were always somehow more soulful than the ones in Nashville regarding Elvis. And I wanted you to just talk about that whole, because these Stax sessions, I got to tell you, Raised on Rock, Good Times, and Promised Land. Well, there was this whole release of Elvis at Stax too. It's some of the funkiest Elvis I've ever heard in my life. It's so amazing, and I just wanted you to take us through that time because, he was pretty tired. You guys didn't get through nearly the kind of material each night. He was eating cheeseburgers, but you guys still had the bond was still really strong between you two.
Well, first of all, we loved Elvis, okay? When you recorded with Presley, if he was feeling good, he was better than anybody in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Oh, my God.
I mean, the son of a bitch really could sing. And he had this tremendous range. It went down to his baritone, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know, he had at least a 3-octave range, I think. And he could get up and scream like Little Richard when he was younger, you know. But yeah, here's what happened. Elvis wanted to. He's starting to gain weight, you know.
Right.
And I don't think he wanted to come to Nashville. And they started with a Memphis rhythm section. By the way, my favorite bass player in the whole South, Tommy Cogbill, came in.
Oh my!
I got to tell you,
I need you to tell me about that. He's your favorite player.
Tommy Cogbill was a jazz guitarist.
Oh my God! No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was. And Chip's Moment has him play the bass because he's got Reggie Young, who can come up with these crafty little intro licks.
Oh yeah.
Nobody was better than Reggie at that. So Tommy goes over and just kills the bass parts, you know. And after we all moved up to Nashville from Muscle Shoals, Jerry Wexler brings Aretha Franklin down here. And Rick didn't have a bass player or a guitar player. They had all left him. But they had Roger Hawkins and Spooner Oldham and not Reggie Young. Who played the guitar? It wasn't Reggie.
Well, maybe it was your dear friend. Another guy I wanted to ask you. It was Chip Young.
Chip's Moment.
Not Chip Young. He didn't play guitar, did he?
No, but Chip's Moment and Tommy Cogbill came over here to Florence or Muscle Shoals and did the 2 songs with Aretha that made her career turn around.
Really?
Yeah, and so when you hear "Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You,"
yeah,
well, that's old Tommy, and the blues licks. A few blues licks you hear is Chip's Moment.
Wow, that's insane, dude. Chips, dude.
So Tommy Cogbill. Listen to Elvis Presley's "Kentucky Rain." That was done in '69.
Oh my God! Wait, is he on bass on that? There's nothing where he was on playing jazz guitar, is he?
Oh no, I don't think he ever played jazz guitar after he got into that rhythm section.
Right.
He played bass. Oh, he's a great producer too. When this young kid came down to Memphis, his name was something Diamond, Harry Diamond.
Right.
They changed his name to Neil.
Yeah. They changed his name.
No, I'm making all this shit up. Okay. But he came down to Memphis because the rhythms they were cutting heads with Dusty Springfield, son of a preacher man.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Sure.
And so they come down there, and Tommy produces him because I guess Chips was busy with something else. And so Tommy produced. So they're in there. He doesn't have a lot of songs. He had 4 or 5 songs, and they do the songs. And Tommy says to Neil, "Man, I still don't think we got a hit single here. You got anything else?" And I'm telling you this story secondhand because it's a famous story. And Neil says, "I started a song about Caroline Kennedy."
Oh no!
And he said, "Well, you got any of it?" He said, "I maybe got a verse and a chorus." And so he does that. They record that, you know.
Yeah.
And the organ player played that da 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 dee da da dee da 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 sweet Caroline, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
It had a great intro. Bobby something played that. That was just. And Neil Diamond goes back to New York, finishes the song, but they come back and complete the record. And Tommy Cogbill produced that and produced the first 3 or 4 hits on Neil Diamond. So Tommy had great ears. He could play the guitar. He could play the bass. I stole more licks from Tommy Cogbill than James Jamerson and Paul McCartney put together.
That is a profound statement. That is really profound.
And you know what the great thing was?
Oh my God!
When I played something similar to him, I didn't play it well enough for anyone to say you stole it from Tommy Cogbill.
Right? Exactly.
But you know, we all as bass players stole from each other. You know.
Right, of course.
On a Motown record, James Jamerson played. And I might play something similar to that somewhere, sometime. Then you wouldn't even think about James Jamerson, you know. And that's sort of what. But you were asking me about soulful.
Well, no, what I was saying is that it seemed there was this I just really did a deep dive into this yesterday. I became kind of obsessed. Like, that was the first time that you had been to, because I mean at that point Stax was in trouble. This is the Elvis sessions,
yeah.
And like because the Raised on Rock was the legendary Donald Duck Dunn, Al Jackson. They brought in some of the Stax guys, but then Good Times and Promised Land. That's all Putnam.
Well, here's what happened.
Yeah,
the first group that came in. And Tommy was there a few nights too.
Really?
And I guess some of the Stax guys were there, you know.
Right.
But it wasn't moving as fast as Elvis liked it to move, you know. I got to tell you, Elvis got on the first take a lot of times.
You mean you think he was nailing it, but the Cats were not getting it on the first take?
Well, I think the Memphis Cats were used to taking their time. They were.
Yeah, I know that absolutely.
You know, they weren't trained like Nashville, New York, L.A. players.
Right, knock us off. Right, exactly. I dig.
As a matter of fact, I don't recall a time of when a producer might have said to the keyboard guy, "Why don't you take the intro instead of the guitar player?" Okay, let's roll tape. Count it off. Now there's no rehearsal, right? And the keyboard player just kills his intro. Okay? That's a level of playing that the guys had. And they expected to be called upon at any time to be great.
Wow.
Elvis loved that. Okay? You loved that. So, I don't know. I was in California, I think, or someplace. It might have been the time Dan Fogelberg and I were in Sausalito doing... Which record without a pen?
Oh man, I'm trying to figure out. I mean, no, because that was what was revelatory, and I should have known that. But you had really moved on totally into production at that point. Like you'd actually stopped playing sessions a little bit.
Yeah, really. After 1970,
that blew my mind when I read that.
After 1970, I would always come and play for Elvis.
Exactly.
And because I mean. Man, I ended up playing on 120 tracks over the next 7 years.
Holy shit, my God.
Yeah. But I have to tell you, the first week he came to Nashville, we got 35 done in 5 nights. Okay? And we haven't heard this material. You'd only heard about half of it. and it was just, it was like, if he was getting it, and then you're doing the first take, it's like, hang on, because he's killing this vocal. And I think I might have told you, he would go in the control room and listen. And we were all gathering around. We're saying, if we get a chance to do it again, maybe I could do this, maybe you could do that. We're all pitching ideas around, right?
Right.
Listen to each other. And then a lot of times the guitar player's done something up. I say, I want to double that with you, right? And so we're doing all this in case, but if he plays it back twice in the control room, he's listening twice. That means he's thinking of keeping it.
Wow.
And so we said we got to do something about this. So we came up with this little scheme. Oh my God, he's playing it back a third time. Okay, one of us, I don't know if we drew sticks or whatever you draw. One of us would have to go in there, and we'd stand by Elvis, and he'd say, "Hey, Put, what do you think?" I'd say, "Hey, King." Oh, we'd call him King.
I love it, dude. He's calling you Put. You're calling him. This is unreal, dude.
I'd say, "Hey, King, could you do one more for me?" Yeah, sure. What are you thinking? I say, I got a thing I want to do going into the chorus. And James has got a thing he wants to change. Oh, hell, let's do it again, he'd say. And he'd run on out there, right? And so and one night, a year or two down into my tenure with him, I walked in that room. I was standing there. I didn't say anything. He goes, you want to see me do it again, don't you? You think this is tough, don't you? All right, come on, let's go do it again. I never met an artist like that, you know? And so what happened, I was out in California, I think, with Fogelberg.
Right.
And Phil Jarvis called me and said, I said, we'd like to have, I think, did Reggie come down? Oh, do you have a list of the guys that played?
Yeah, I'm gonna. That was part of the. Yeah, it was all the Cats. Hold on one second. It was all the Cats. Yet I wasn't sure if it was Ron Tutt or Kerrigan on those sessions or both.
I think it was Ron Tutt.
Dude, can you please? Was that the first? When was the first time you crossed paths with Tutt? I think if I could have seen.
Maybe the first.
Oh
yeah,
my.
Maybe I never played with Ron except on Elvis stuff. And Jerry Sheff was playing with him. And I wonder why they didn't bring Sheff. You know, maybe Sheff had taken another gig.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, this was yeah.
Sheff was a great player, you know, and
incredible player.
But anyway, so I think it was Ron Tutt, David Briggs was on keyboards, my old buddy from Muscle Charles, and me. I was Chip Young there. Who was the rhythm?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna keep riffing. I'm gonna get it for you. Don't worry. I'm gonna find out because they did this release, in 20. But at that point, like, well, first of all, you were also like. I mean, you would say that normally after the first song was cut, you guys were already getting time and a half in the studio. I mean, it was always a lucrative time. Then there'd be Chinese or barbecue coming in. I mean, it didn't sound real, actually, to me, the whole situation.
Well, at this point in his life, Presley's nocturnal.
That's right. That's right.
He gets up at 5, just like everybody else, except it's 5 in the afternoon. And he would have his breakfast around 6 and be at the studio promptly at 8 o'clock to start his day. And it killed us in Nashville because when I was playing in 1970, I would have a session 10 that morning, 10 to 1, pack up, go to another studio, another artist, 2 to 5, go to RCA at 6, and he's not there, but the clock is rolling, you know. And so he would come at 8 o'clock and entertain us until 10. Some of the funny stories you've ever heard. Okay, and we'd start to record at 10 in the evening. Now I've been in the studios 12 hours, and so has the rest of the band, pretty much. You know. And so between 10 in the evening and 5 a.m., we'd knock out 5, 6, 7 tracks. We played it until he got the vocal. And
you know who did that? You know who did that organ? That organ, Bobby Emmons.
Bobby Emmons played that, John.
On Sweet Caroline. Yes.
Isn't that brilliant?
That's insane. Well, I mean, and I just to put a button on that story, he had. Would you say that whole song was created right then and there? I mean, it didn't sound like Neil had much of anything really. He had a chorus or something.
Yeah, but he had a verse and a chorus.
Verse and a chorus, yeah.
Yeah, and so he would have had to write a second verse, maybe, or a third verse. But the bass player on that, Cogbill, since he's producing, and this was the problem I had. It's very hard to play the bass on the track with the artist and the rhythm section and really know if your artist did anything.
Right.
Because bass players and drummers play together, right? And so when I was playing a bass part, I'm not even hearing a lot of the keyboard parts and guitar parts because I'm so locked in that drummer, right?
Right.
And when I got to produce that first album on Joe Baez, I thought I was just the band leader and the bass player that week until Christopherson backed out. I had to go in the control room and we'd do a tape. She'd say, "How was it?" And I would say, "I'm not sure. I'm in here trying to play this bass, and we'd all have to listen together." And so Tommy, when he was doing Diamond Neil, he would have my buddy, the other great bass player down there.
No, there were a bunch, dude. I mean, I've been trying to find. Every time I look up, I'm finding a new freaking player. It's. I mean, Bobby Moore. I don't think it was Bob Moore.
No, he was a Nashville guy. He didn't travel much. Now, in the rhythm section in Memphis, it was what was his name? And he was a good arranger too. And he played a great part of Sweet Caroline. And it'll come to me in a second.
I'm just looking at these Elvis Stack sessions. It was definitely. I'm just going to read out Reggie Young, Bobby Wood, Ronnie Tutt, and then there's Alan Rush. Then there was this cat Pachuki, man, the engineer, Al Pachuki.
Oh, he was a Nashville engineer who worked with Felton Jarvis.
Right, and
you know what? The other thing was Stax. They only had a smidgen of the original equipment. The studio was almost closed down.
That's what I was interested in. You said it was such a beautiful thing. You drove this rental car, stumbled over there, got in. It was just like weeds and grass. It was just you really were articulate about like how, I mean, they really were already shipping everything out to Clarence Avon, who just passed away. He took it over and turned it into Sussex, and that became a West Coast label. So you're telling me that, like, was there even a... Go ahead.
RCA sent a remote truck from New York, and it parked it in the parking lot behind Stax and ran in cabling for the microphones.
Oh, my God.
And they arranged a speaker system in the control room, the old control room at Stax, so Felton Jarvis could sit in there and look at the band playing, okay, while the engineer was out in the truck recording all of it. And there were also some great engineers from New York came down as well. So they didn't suffer. Matter of fact, it was probably better than the gear that they originally had at Stax.
Honestly, those Elvis albums sound pristinely good. So They did a great freaking job on that.
There was a guy named Mike Moran in New York that I loved who worked on that stuff. He got a great drum sound, And of course, I was excited to walk into those Howland Walls with Otis Redding and all those great guys.
Absolutely, man.
And of course, this rhythm section, me and Briggs, we're going to chart it out when we hear it. And so literally, they play a demo or something, or we speak, and I grab a legal pad, he grabs a legal pad, and we start writing. And pretty much by the time the demo's finished, we got a chart. We're ready to play, Elvis. Okay? And I wonder who the guitar was. Reggie there?
Yeah, it was. It looks like it was Reggie Young, Briggs, you, Tut, and then there's but these sessions were over several. It just says the title Elvis's Stax is slightly misleading, suggesting Elvis Presley decided to set up shop at the famed Memphis recording studio so he could use their house band or perhaps co-opt some of the Southern soul groove. That wasn't the case. Elvis chose the Stax studio to conduct several recordings in '73 for a simple reason. It was close to his Memphis home. He rented out the studio twice, once in July and once in December, and brought in his crack backing band. And like I said, those albums wound up on Raised on Rock, Good Times, and Promised Land. There were a few guitar players listed. Burton's on there too.
Yeah.
Burton's on there, and another Charlie Hodge.
Charlie Hodge was just added to the card. He was the guy who handed Elvis his scarves. But he was actually a talented guy.
Oh, I guarantee he was talented.
He could sing harmony with Elvis, when he's hanging. But he lived with Elvis, basically. And he was there. If Elvis wanted to do some gospel tunes, he would come in there and sing harmonies with me. He could play piano and guitar, and so he was really a talented guy. But they'd always put him on the sessions because he's in the building. Okay, so we'd pick up some extra money, like he was a player. He didn't usually play or sing on anything. You know. I gotta get this bass player's name right. Though it'll come to me in a second. I'll probably have to send it to you.
Yeah, no, it's there's just to while you're thinking about it, I wanted to. I mean, this was fascinating to me. I've been since I last talked to you. We got this almost recently. This small town in Arizona called Wilcox. They drove in to this nonprofit that I work at and dropped and donated 1,500 country records. Most of them are it's just a lot of Charlie Pride and Lynn Anderson and that kind of stuff. But then I just wanted to talk to you. I know that you and Briggs opened your own studio, but there's this studio that keeps coming up that I wanted to ask you about, Woodland Sound Studios with Ron Chancey.
Ron Chancey, great producer.
Did you work with him at all, or were you already in production when he started to? I'm just looking here at this album.
Can I tell you?
Please.
When I came to Nashville in '65, I was probably the worst country bassist in the city. Okay, because I never played any country music.
Right.
We didn't do any in Muscle Shoals, and all I'd ever played was mostly black R&B. I loved Ray Charles. I always said I got to play with the two greatest guys ever, Ray Charles and Elvis Presley. Okay, there wasn't anybody who could put emotion behind a great song better than Ray Charles.
I'm sorry. When did I don't think I knew you played with him.
All I did with him was the television show.
That's good enough.
I got a call from Charlie McCoy one day.
Oh, boy.
Charlie was the music director for the Hee Haw show, right?
Oh, my. Go ahead.
So Ray Charles is coming in to do duets with who was the guy on the show from Bakersfield?
Buck Owens.
Yeah. So together again, and Ray, Ray's country record was the greatest country record I ever heard.
Absolutely.
But here's the deal. Charlie says, hey, they wanted to get a more hip rhythm section for Ray. Oh, God. Count me in, And so it was me and Kenny Buttrey, who was my favorite drummer in Nashville. We were in area code 615 together. Matter of fact, let's see, who else was there? Oh, Matt Gaden was there. He wrote Everlasting Love,
Well, no, don't even get me started about Matt Gaden, dude. Yeah.
I played the bass part of the first record ever made of Everlasting Love. And it's got that's a real Jamerson bass part.
Oh, my God, dude.
But anyway, so we go down to the television studio, and we get there early, we get set up, and Ray comes in. And he's got the guy's got his elbow, and he can get him to sit down.
Right.
Goes, how you boys doing today? He said like that. We said, we're doing great, Ray. He said, any of you boys know any of my songs? We know all of your songs. Well, Buck is right there with him. And Bruce said, well, we got these two Buck Owens things we're going to do. And then, Buck, I got to get you over the other set. So we need to knock these things out in like 10, 15 minutes, right?
Wow.
Oh, Charlie Corey had written a chart for the two Buck Owens songs. This is great, okay? And so Ray said, he says, okay, I'm going to count it off. Well, he counts it off. No matter what tempo he counted off, he would play it a little slower.
That's just how he felt. He felt it that way.
Well, I guess he did. Okay, so I moved around. Did I ever send you a copy of my book?
Oh, I love it so much. Yeah.
All right. At the end of each chapter, there's a QR code. And if you hold your smartphone over the QR code, you can see the video of me moving around so I can see Ray's left hand, because he's going to count it off, and I'm going to watch his hand come down from that bass note, and it's going to be late. I'm about 25 years old, 26 maybe, and I'm staring intently, and I'm in the camera for a second. And I can't remember what the song was. But here's what happened. So we knock out the two Buck Owens, right? It takes 10 or 12 minutes. And Buck hugs Ray. He's going over to the other set. And Ray says to us, he said, "You boys know any of my songs?" We said, "We know all your songs." He said, "I bet you don't know this one." And he would just go into one, right? And we all fall in. And by the time we finished the first one, the producer in the control room was going, "Hey, man, that's great. Let's get a few of these." and so we did 5 or 6 of his standards. And I don't think there was a rehearsal for any of them. And
are you kidding me?
We did Georgia on My Mind. And we had played those things when we were 16.
Well, of course. I mean, you were rocking out, but this was for the Hee Haw, or did it ever come out? Did these?
Here's what happened. So that particular show with Buck Owens went down just as it's supposed to. But whenever they needed filler, they push one of Ray's things in there.
Oh my God!
And that's how I got in there and got on the TV show. And I can't remember what the song was, but
you're saying there is video footage because of the QR code? You can queue it up and get the video of you moving around?
Well, what the QR code takes you to YouTube, and the video starts
Dude,
playing.
very hip, man. Very, very hip.
Yeah, by the way, my whole book is like that, because I couldn't afford to license those songs.
No. So
I just send it over to YouTube, because they're already set up to pay the publishing or whatever they pay.
Oh, absolutely.
And but there's 2 videos in there. There's that one where you'll see me staring at Ray's left hand. Okay. And I can't remember. And it's one of his great songs too. And then there's another video of area code 615 on the Johnny Cash show.
Oh, no way.
And that one got really pissed off Charlie McCoy, because first of all, we were working all the time, right? And Charlie says, "Look, Johnny wants to have us on his TV show." Because Johnny would have these. Well, he would bring in Neil Young. He would bring in Linda Ronstadt, Eric Clapton, And so the deal was, we had made the record a year before or something, and we were trying to figure out when we could get together and rehearse, and it was impossible. Everybody's playing sessions all over town, different studios, different producers. By the way, if I worked 3 or 4 sessions in a day, I would play with 3 or 4 different drummers. We were never hired as a rhythm section like we were at Muscle Shoals. Well, a few people did.
Yeah, but you were really floating around with Buttrey, Kerrigan, maybe Carl T. Himmel or Kenny Malone. You were finding different guys every day.
Yeah, and Buddy Harmon.
Please, I don't want to leave anybody out. Buddy
played on all those Everly Brothers records, and all those Brenda Lee records, and all those Patsy Cline records. And Buddy was a master, okay. And but that's the way it was in Nashville. Everybody knew the culture of how you play, how you listen, and what your job is. And the only thing that changed was the artist and the type of song it was. And when Owen Bradley put me on his list, most of the producers had 5 bass players, and they didn't really. Number 1 might be their favorite guy, but number 5 is going to be great too.
Oh.
And they'd have 5 drummers, 5 bass players, 5 keyboard guys, 20 guitar players who can do anything. right? And
this was. Are you saying this was like by 68 or this 65? They already had.
I swear it wasn't 65. No, it stays that way.
Oh my God!
Because the producers would say to their secretaries, well, I don't know. Chet Atkins would say to his secretary, oh, I'm going to be doing this album with Skeeter Davis in 2 weeks. You go ahead and book the band, you know. And and if it was more than a rhythm section, Chet would tell her we'll have strings or we'll have voices there. So she'd get a full layout, but she'd go ahead and call the rhythm section. King Organ was number one for Chet Atkins because Chet loved the way he dressed. He was very dapper. Okay, he was very collegiate looking, and Briggs and I were a little rougher around the edges. We wore jeans and golf shirts.
Yeah, I mean, you were always grabbing the legal pads, and you dressed casual for it.
Yeah, casual funk, you know.
Casual funk. That is the greatest line ever.
Well, you see pictures of us. We looked unkempt. You know, my hair I needed a good hair.
Oh, man, we would have had such a ball, man. This is unbelievable.
You know,
God.
But yeah, that's the way it was. And I have to tell you, I was trying to think if there were any bad drummers. They could all play, you know, and they all knew what to play.
What about James Isbell?
Oh, Isbell was great. He didn't quite make the top.
He wasn't in that top five. I mean, there's like.
But there were places like he worked a lot of the Acuff Rose stuff, the new beats. You know, I didn't play on Bread and Butter, and I said I did in the book.
Really?
I played on the hit that followed up. Something about dun 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 dun. That was the bass part, and something about running back to her arms or something. You know, but Isbell would play on that stuff. And
what about? There's another cat here. I mean, this guy falls into to your neck of the woods. Bobby Dyson.
Oh, Bobby Dyson was an excellent Fender bass player.
Yes.
And Chet loved him. He played a lot of stuff for Chet. I'll tell you, the bass players, the top five is basically Bobby Moore could do everything.
100%.
Bobby was the greatest acoustic bass player in Nashville. He could play everything from jazz to Brenda Lee to Patsy Cline. He could do all the country stuff. But Owen recognized his talents while he was still a teenager and sent him up to Juilliard for summer where he took...
Arco.
Yeah, he learned to play Arco.
Yeah, this was the greatest story of all time. Yeah, absolutely.
And he came back home, and boy... And he was driven. He was a son of a bitch. I got to tell you, Bobby Moore. Oh. The first time I saw Bobby Moore, he's coming out of the back of the Columbia studio. And I'd met most all the bass players, right? All nice guys. Norbert, I'm glad you're here, you know. We need somebody who can really kill that Fender bass. But I'm playing acoustic bass on more than half of my sessions. Or more. So I see Bobby coming out. I said, hey, Bobby, Norbert Putnam. I just want to tell you I love you. It's a pleasure meeting you. You know what he said? Fuck you. And he got in his car and drove off.
That is so classic.
And so I asked Harold Bradley about it. He goes, oh, God. He says, if you get anybody's business, it's going to be Body's because he's a terrible Fender bass player. And you can really play the Fender. Sure enough. Not only did I get a lot of it, but I got a lot of the sight reading stuff.
Right.
Henry Mancini came down.
Well, no, that to me. I'm curious if in your electric playing. Well, there's another cat, Tommy Alsop.
Oh, Tommy was a guitar player.
He was guitar. He didn't play. You know, he's on this. This is one cat. Did you ever work with Johnny Carver?
Is he a singer or something?
Yeah, tie a yellow ribbon around an old oak tree. I mean, it's all your body. I mean, this was 73. You were already kind of not playing. This was at
I'm not really playing much at that time, I guess.
Absolutely.
I only played 6 years in Nashville. And then sporadically.
Well, that's what I guess that was the point is that, I mean, okay, so Elvis was... You know, for the King, Put's going to go and play no matter what. What was the obviously outside of you having to play something that nobody else could at the session. What motivated you to actually pick up the bass after a while, or you just were comfortable in that production mode?
Oh no! It was pure greed.
Oh, I dig. No, I dig.
No, it was a combination of desperation and greed. Okay, because by 1969, 1970, I'm playing 600 record dates a year.
Oh my God, 600?
Yeah, and
holy mama!
And taking a couple of weeks off. So it's based on a 50-week year.
Oh my God!
So I am now in the top 5, and I'm working 3 sessions a day, maybe 4 sessions for 2 days a week, right? And so so I got 4 times 15. I'm doing at least averaging about 17 sessions a week. But if Elvis was in town, I'm probably doing more than that. I'm doing 20.
Sure.
And
sure.
His time and he goes late,
I mean, dude, you guys he'd be eating that cheeseburger and fries, and he'd wolf it down. You hadn't even taken a bite of your food yet, dude.
Well, I tell you.
I mean, you lived a great. I mean, this is anyway. Go ahead, please.
Well, first of all,
yeah.
I remember Briggs and I talking. In 69, David and I, we were like brothers.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, we would have dinner with our wives on Saturday night. And the wives would sit over there and talk, and David and I would be at the other end of the table talking. Let's cross the table, right?
Yeah.
And I remember a conversation. I said, David, my back is killing me from playing that damn acoustic bass and sitting on a stool. You can't stand up and play all day and all night. You sit. So a bass player's got a stool. Guitar players are all sitting in chairs, right?
Right.
They're not going to stand up and play like
Nah, totally.
We made and all of us had a little bit of a botch, we got a little chubby around the middle, just sitting there. and my back was killing me from that damn acoustic bass because it puts you in an odd position because your left arm is up high, on the neck of the bass up high. And then you reach down below, so you're twisting your body, and you really have to pull that string to get a good sound.
Absolutely, dude. You had those calluses. You were blood blisters everywhere.
Oh, I had a callus on my index finger of my right hand that ran all the way from the down below my nail all the way up to the second part of my finger.
Well, dude, if you didn't put that in the first book. If you can take...
There's a lot of stuff I didn't put in there.
No, what I'm saying, for the new book, you have to talk about how big that callus was.
Well, but the way you do it, that lower part, the lower 2/3 of your index finger, is straight with the string, right?
Mm.
And roll the string off all that flesh as it comes down.
Right.
Now, on my left hand, my little finger, it's got a big hunk of meat hanging off my little finger. Okay. Well, anyway.
No, I want to go back. So the back. What does Briggs say? Did he like play the electric? What did he say? You're like, my back.
I got to tell you, my back is killing me. But I'm not sure I want to. We're making $100,000 a year.
I know.
And our wives are driving new cars,
having a ball. Yeah.
They're becoming professional shoppers.
Right, dude.
I mean, you couldn't spend that kind of money in 1960.
That's so, dude. You had, I mean, that is insane, dude. I guess I would assume the only cats that were doing that kind of, not just work, but just bringing in that dough was like Purdy and Rainey and I mean whoever else. I mean, I there were not that many cats doing that many sessions, raking in.
On every session, there was one guy who was a leader. And he was usually an older guy like Grady Martin.
Oh, my God. Hero.
And if he's a leader, he's pulling in $200,000 a year. Okay?
In 69.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, man. Putnam was on top of the world. Your back's killing you, though, dude. Doesn't make, if you're in pain, it doesn't mean anything.
Listen, I bought a house in 1970 on a hillside, 3.5 acres with a wooden, it was a cedar and glass house.
God.
Hanging hillside by a great architect for $60,000.
Sounds about right. That's so freaking brilliant, unbelievable, man.
And you could buy a Porsche 911 for $7,200, a Mercedes sedan for $5,000.
Oh my God.
A Cadillac for $3,500, something like that. You know, the guitar players all drove these big Cadillacs that had a giant trunk.
Right, so they'd have their mandolins and their string guitars. They could bring all their equipment. It was
Harold Bradley said, "I got 14 cases in the trunk of that car. If they want a mandolin, they want you name it, and I got it back there. I'll just run out and get it, bring it in." The other thing was, if you played two different instruments, like they would tell me to bring both basses. Like with Bobby Goldsboro, I played the big upright bass on all his ballads, like Honey and Little Green Apples, Hand in Hand, that kind of stuff. And then I'd get the Fender bass out when it rocked out. And then I got a double, which kicked my earnings up from, I can't remember what scale it was, but probably kicked it up by a third.
You got double scale, yeah.
And so the guitar players were constantly getting doubles because they say, "I'd like to play the dobro on this."
Oh, absolutely. They could, yeah. They might. I mean, they could play three or yeah.
And the producers would say, "Oh, I guess he's got a great idea." but so I'm telling David that we got to do something, and he said, "Well, Briggs had a great idea." He said, "Why don't we learn to write these country songs?" I said, "Well, there's not much to learn. It's always about don't come home with drinking, but loving of your mind." You know?
Right.
And I would show Loretta Lynn song.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, I came in to play for her one day.
You did.
And early in the morning, and she's back there making coffee at Bradley's bar. I walked back there. She says, "Oh, who are you?" I said, "I'm Norbert Putnam. I'm filling in for Bobby Moore this morning." "Oh," she said, "do you know who I am?" I said, "I think I do." He said, "I'm the girl who wrote that song about don't come home with drinking with fucking on your mind."
Oh
I turned all shades of red.
Yeah, right.
I was only about 23.
What a woman, man.
But she just laughed. He caught me,
That's so great, man.
I got to tell you, all of those people were great people.
Well, that's what it's. I mean, it's just. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I guess. A lot of cats would call it the music racket, but in the 2+ hours that we've done interviews, I can't. Was it a dirty business in Nashville? It sounds to me like people were. I mean,
no. Oh God, no! It was the cleanest thing you've ever seen.
That's you were blessed because yeah.
And the reason we left Muscle Shoals is because we had a union in Birmingham. All the major labels had deals with the AFL-CIO or whatever it was, that they would only use union musicians on the recordings, right?
Right.
And when we did that first record down here with Arthur Alexander, and Rick goes to Nashville and makes a deal with a guy to sell it to Dot Records, they said, not only do we need a union contract, but this thing's in mono. The record's got to be in stereo. We didn't have any stereo gear. But Noel Ball, his buddy up there, who was a pilot, flew down here in a twin-engine airplane, picked us up and took us to Birmingham, where we signed a backdated contract, and he paid for us to join the union. Okay.
Wow.
So now we're in the union. But Rick Hall would make a deal with people that came in. It was $45 for 3 hours. We played 9 hours and signed for 3 hours.
Oh, my God.
And then Ray Stevens came down here the second or third year and said, if you get your sight reading together, you're good enough to be the young rhythm section, basically.
That's right.
I'm parsing his words here. But and he went on to tell us, he said, now, if you become popular players, and I think you will be, you can play 3 or 4 of those record dates a day. At that point, the scale had gone up to about $50 every 3 hours. And we're saying, are you trying to tell me I can earn $200 in one day?
Dude, that's like in today's money, that's like 750. That's what $1,000.
Well, let's see. Well, that 100,000 1970 would probably be what?
Dude, I'm not a math guy, but it's got to be over $1 million.
Well, I have to tell you, that Porsche 911 I bought new on the showroom floor for $7,200. 20 years later, that same looking car, a little better engine maybe, was $72,000.
Absolutely. 20 years? How many years? 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like late 80s, pretty much.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that thing was up there in the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was quicker than that. As a matter of fact, the first Porsche I bought in '70, it was a silver hardtop, and I wanted the Targa the next year, and I went down there to get a '71 that had a Targa, and I had to pay $700 boot.
Wow.
I got called to play a session at Starday King Records out of Cincinnati.
I'm looking here. Gusto Deluxe, Starday King, Power Pack. It's unbelievable you just dropped that name. Federal. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, anyway, they did a bunch of crazy people, and Donovan was coming in.
Right.
And that was a very prophetic day for me, because there was a young engineer from England, Marty Lewis, who came in to engineer Donovan. And
whoa.
And so I meet Donovan, and I hire Marty Lewis. Starday King was I'm really not print this, but it was not exact state-of-the-art studio. And usually when we went out there, the sound wasn't so good. But this Marty Lewis guy, it was stellar with him twisting the knobs.
That's so. Yeah, I remember. I just have all these Red Sovine records on Starday. But you're saying he just had the magic. He had the magic touch. This cat, Lewis.
Yeah, and by the way, they did a lot of country, but they also did a lot of crazy pop rock stuff.
Really?
And R&B stuff.
Really?
Yeah, and they had James Brown, didn't they?
Well, no, you're talking about being just King itself. Yeah, King did.
Yeah. Well, those guys would come down to recording Nashville, do horns there, and go back to Cincinnati.
Wow.
There was a side of Nashville. Like, I made a great living without playing country dates, because there were some guys who could kill them. Bobby Moore and Junior Husky. Junior Husky was down at the Opry every Saturday night, backing up Loretta, and he would remember everything he played on the records.
Right.
and when he played country, it swung, as they say.
Dude, I just want to hear that, man, so badly.
It was vanilla when I played country. Okay, it was not.
Yeah, but no, it was the Putnam version of country. I mean, Husky Junior was just on a different. I mean, he was really playing it. He was playing the real country.
He was the best I ever heard him. Bobby could do it too. Okay,
definitely. Those two cats were 1 and 1A. Is there anybody else you want to throw into that conversation? They're like the holy grail, I think.
There's a guy from Birmingham, Alabama, who was 3 years my senior.
You can never remember this cat's name.
Henry Strelecki.
Strelecki.
Strelecki played on Bob Dylan stuff.
Totally, dude.
Also, I think he played bass on Pretty Woman for Roy Orbison. But here's the deal. Strelecki, he had studied bass as a kid. He could sight read anything. He could bow with the best. And Chet loved him because he could play jazz.
Oh, my God.
Okay. So he'd go do the symphony gigs with Chet. And there's records that was done with the Boston Pops with Kerrigan from Muscle Shoals.
Oh, my God.
Leading the drum part with Henry Strelecki and Chet Atkins and the Boston Pops. Strelecki was great.
I will never pass on that album again. I cannot believe that. Bobby Moore Jr., I just don't want to, the old country guys when Putnam rolled into town, like that's the key, right? Like who were a couple of those cats?
Well, I didn't hurt any of those country guys because there's probably 4 or 5 great country bass players.
Right.
Okay. Besides Junior. And Bobby could do anything. Bobby was, he could do the pop stuff. He could read. That's Bobby on all the Brenda Lee.
Oh my god, dude, he is ridiculous. I just want to be very clear. I'm looking at this album, Hello Blues by Floyd Kramer, and the liner notes are written by David Halberstam, which is so insane. And Randy Randolph is on this before he became Boots. Carl Garvin was on trumpet, and then of course it's the Top Flight: Buddy Harman, Bobby Moore, Chet, and Hank Garland on this album. It's unreal, dude. It's all blues.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, I recorded with Boots too.
Well, I was going to ask you. You recorded with Boots?
Yeah, but I did a Boots with Strings album.
I'm going to find that out. I see that album all the time. Yeah.
I have to tell you, I think he did 2 or 3 Boots with Strings albums because he played beautifully. Okay, and one of them, the one I played on. They wrote the rhythm section like George Shearing style.
Sure.
Shearing would have the vibes, doubling the guitar part.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%.
Well, I did one of those records of Boots like that. It was great fun. Okay. And I think Bill Purcell was the pianist.
Wow.
But anyway, what would happen a lot of times, though, we'd cut just the rhythm tracks, and then Fred Foster would put the strings on the next day or something, But I got to tell you, I love my life in Nashville because it was not the country life.
You're right.
I'm playing all the pop stuff that Bobby can't do. I think I would probably was pretty. I pretty much had the Fender bass covered at first call, pretty much on that. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. But if it was pop or rock and roll or weird, I'd get the call.
Well, this is why I love Norbert. That was the you know what? There's one more. This is the guy who I originally asked to connect me with you, and he goes way back to my. He was with my dad at Jewish summer camp in upstate New York. The albums, my favorite albums, David Buskin.
Really?
Yeah, he was. My dad and him are very close.
I produced that album.
Dude, I have it right here. I'm looking at it right now. There's also this country porn album. It's insane.
Piece of trash. Throw that away.
No, I'm just keeping it for the cover, dude. I know it didn't work out musically, but I'm like, this is insane.
Oh, it was an embarrassing thing.
Why? What happened, dude? What was so embarrassing about it?
I'll tell you about that in private sometime.
Absolutely. Okay? Hey, listen, you know what?
I want that to ever appear in print.
No, it's fine. Listen.
But David Buskin.
Yeah, Buskin, please.
When gray geese fly across the northern sky.
That's right, dude.
Something like that, right? Band's playing, and Spooner's on piano, and we let one down, and Penn singing. And Spooner played a lick going into the last chorus. A really great blues lick. And so we all come in the control room, and I said, Spooner, that lick, put it before every chorus. That is our signature lick.
Wow.
Well, could you play that for me so I could hear what I did? So we played it for him. He said, could you play it again? We played it again. I just don't know how I did that. That's the kind of keyboard guy was. I just don't know how I did that. He never could play it again. And it was you know what I'm saying?
No, you can't. I mean, you try something like that, it just fell through him. You can't do it that way anymore. It's like taking that perfect solo.
All great pianists can do anything they've ever done. How many times do you want them to do it? It's just he was that kind of guy.
Yeah, Spooner
couldn't hear the lick, and he just played it. He couldn't figure out what the fingering was. I honestly think I could have gone out and played it. Okay. Well, we went ahead and cut the track without it, but it was sort of, that's the kind of guy. Spooner never got any studio work because of that reason. He might do a little something, but he could never repeat it, and he was just kind of a musical dummy. He could feel something once, but normally if you play something back to the guy that he just played, Oh, immediately knows how he did it.
Did you ever cross paths with? It's funny. It just came into my head. This drummer, the band Little Feat. Did you ever cross paths with Lowell George?
We met some of those guys when the area code came out to play at the Fillmore West. They came backstage.
Who came back? Who was out? You were out there with who?
Area code 615.
Oh, Eric, you played the film. I was going to say because the drummer Richie Hayward is that kind of player. He could never play the same thing, and he was incredible. I mean, Spooner's incredible. I mean, he brings me to tears with some of his stuff. But it's like that musical amnesia where you can't repeat it. You know?
Yeah, that's unfortunate because the way we make records, you know, if a great keyboard guy, a great guitar player comes up with something going into a chorus, we probably want to use it as a hook line for all the choruses that come up.
Right.
And if you can't do something like that, you can't play record dates. Because we sat there with Spooner for about 45 minutes trying to see if he could recapture that sound. And he never got it. It's sort of a downer, you know. Because the guys that I worked with, you know, every guy in the band could have played that lick, right? And but it's difficult to work with someone who's just a soulful guy who may or may not, you know. A Spooner would say, "I don't really hear any piano on this." Well, just go over there and sit at the sofa and have a good time, you know. I don't ever recall a great pianist saying that to me. You know, he always had more ideas. I was at a session one day with Owen Bradley in the early days when I got to Nashville. And it was the 18, Floyd Kramer's on piano. I'm playing acoustic bass. God. Okay. Because Bobby Moore was already booked and couldn't make the date. And so it was Owen's rhythm section. And oh, by the way, Owen had me play with him at the Bellmead Country Club. And we played all of this music I didn't know. And that story was in the book, too. Where he said to me afterwards, he said, "Well, kid, you found most of that." And we're playing all the 30s and 40s shit, you know. And he told me, we stopped for a drink, he said, "You got great ears." He said, "That was difficult music. You found most of it." And that was the test, okay?
Wow.
And he said, "I'm going to make you third bass at Decca. Let me tell you how it works. Bobby Moore can do anything. That's him on Brenda Lee, Patsy Cline.
Right.
And Bobby can play jazz." And he said, "I sent him up to Juilliard for summer so he can now arco the bass." Okay. And,
he's an arco cat now. Yeah, I did.
Because that happened to us in Nashville, you know?
Really?
And well, let me tell you, if you're playing, so when I went up there, 70% of your work is going to be acoustic bass.
Sure.
The Fender bass was something the rockers did and the R&B guys did. But boy, Owen Bradley's told me, "Don't bring the Fender bass. We don't have Muscle Shoals shit on the and he said, "Come over." Next thing I went over to his Columbia. Decca. He's had a Decca.
Decca, yeah.
Handed me 24 albums that had Bobby Moore on them. I said, "I'll make an album in 3-hour sessions. On Monday, we do a 10-1 and 2-5. That gives me 8 sides. We come back the next morning from 10-1, and we got 12 sides. We master the record on Wednesday and send the parts to the plants. Oh, it's mixed live to 3-track as it goes down. There is no remix." Think about that the next time you listen to Brenda Lee, Patsy Cline records. The engineer is balancing it live to 2-track and 3-track.
Well, that's the genius of it. What are your memories of the Lonnie Mack session?
Well, I arranged a couple of tracks for him when he was on Elektra.
Yeah, The Hills of Indiana. It's an amazing album. I had no idea you played bass on that. And you did the string arrangements, and you did the horn arrangements.
Well, I remember doing horn arrangements and some strings. I wrote a cello part that was really nice, a French horn something.
My gosh!
And I didn't produce that. Then he goes over to Capitol, And the guys at Capitol loved me because I was doing the Poussette Dart Band from Boston. Do you remember those guys?
Yep, absolutely.
And those were great records, and we couldn't get it promoted at Capitol in L.A. And they asked me if I'd do Lonnie. And I had a good relationship with Lonnie. And so he comes into Nashville, and we got a good budget. And we're working on a record. He goes, how much money are they paying you to do this? I said, well, I get $35,000, and I get 3 to 5 points. You're shitting me, he said. I said, is that a lot of money to you? Well, damn right. For all you do is sit around and say a few things. I said, so are you unhappy with me?
Yeah, right.
He said, well, I think you're being overpaid. I said, well, look, I'm sorry that you didn't have any voice in this. And I said, let's just try to finish the record. So we finished the record. And I called out to Capitol, and I said, I don't want my name on this record. I said, why not? I said, well, he hated me after he found out what you were paying me, which was what a normal producer would have done, okay?
Sure.
Wasn't that much money. And I'm trying to remember the guy out there I really liked, the English guy who ran the pop division out there. I said, okay, say produced from it was produced by Manta Trebron. That's my name backwards.
Dude, wait, I'm confused. Why was Lonnie getting? Was that just typical? I mean, cats just didn't know how to advocate for themselves. Why wasn't he getting paid what he thought he deserved?
Oh no, it didn't change his deal at all.
No, but I'm saying, like, when why was he so stunned that you that wasn't a lot of money? That was just standard. Why did he go?
You got to realize this guy lived in an old school bus.
I did not know that.
He cut a hole in the ceiling for a a coal burning fire.
Oh my God!
And the school bus had big lights on top of the cab. And he was telling me how they park out in the wilderness somewhere. And if they needed meat, he'd turn the lights on. They'd drive into the forest and shoot a deer.
This is during his career as a band, making records.
Well, yeah, because he wasn't making that many records. And,
you're right about that. You're right about that.
And things were not that good for him. And I don't know what Capitol paid him. Maybe they weren't paying him like they should. But he sure as hell didn't like the fact. And let's see, what year would that have been? I don't know.
71. 71.
Oh, it was early on then.
Yeah.
Well,
and you were spot on. You nailed it. It was electric. I want to go back to the Decca thing for a minute, because Owen Bradley pulled you in and was like, "You're going to be third base." So it was Bobby Moore. Who was the second base?
Junior Husky was the greatest.
Dude, I've been listen since I talked to you last time and did the interview. The two guys that I'm obsessed with that you hit me to, Ferlin Husky and Grady Martin. Both those guys. Dude, Ferlin Husky is a legend. And you're telling me he was playing a bass fiddle. He wasn't playing a Fender bass for the most part.
No, Ferlin Husky was a singer.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I have his records as a singer, but I mean,
no, he didn't play the bass. He never played the bass.
He never played the bass.
No. Husky played the bass. I just told you his name. What was it? Husky. What's
You talking about Bobby Moore?
No, Bobby Moore and Husky were the two. Bobby could play country too. Okay.
Right.
He started out as a country bassist, but Owen took him under his tutelage and taught him how to read music and taught him how to play the Great American Songbook. And he sent him up he knew some people at Juilliard. So he went up there for 3 months and studied technique and arco.
That's right.
Because what happened to me, since 70% of my work is the acoustic bass, I had a bow, but I had rosin. The rosin had to live with me because the summers were so hot. Nashville. The rosin would melt. So the rosin came in and set on my music stand. Whether I had to bow and listen, I never had to bow more than the intro and the ending, right? the strings would be over there 20 feet from me. And I'd play buzz, 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 buzz. And then pizzicato, dum, dum, you know. And so I had to get rid of the bow without making any noise. You couldn't drop it on the floor, you know. And then at the very end, a lot of times the strings come back and I get to go out, you know, and you do that. But when I got up there, it was more like buzz, squeak, buzz, buzz, squeak, buzz, buzz. And I'm at a cocktail party out in Bellmead. Tupper Saucy. I was in the Neon Philharmonic with Tupper Saucy. And Tupper had studied piano with Oscar Peterson. He wrote a symphony. He wrote a great concerto, piano concerto at the National Symphony. Played. My friend Bill Purcell played the piano part. He was a true genius, okay. And he was married to a really wealthy Bellmead woman. They had a big house, and I'm out there at one of their cocktail parties. And there's a bass player over there in the corner with a couple of other instruments. And this son of a bitch, he's the greatest bass player I've ever seen. Wow. And I'm just standing there watching the son of a bitch. And when they took a break, I went over to him. I introduced myself. Oh, you're that new kid's getting all the work in town. He said, well, I'll think of his name in a minute. Since I took all the antibiotics, I have trouble with names.
You're doing fine, man. You're doing fine.
But anyway, I said, do you give lessons? Well, I don't know. What do you need to learn? I need help with Arco. Oh. He said, you play a lot of Fender bass too, don't you? I said, yeah. He said, I just got a Fender bass. I don't know even how to hold the damn thing. What if I come out to your house? I'll bring my Fender bass. And I'll show you how to rosin the bow properly. I can teach you I can stop all your squeaks pretty fast, okay? So he comes out to my house, and I'm living out on the lake. You know, I'm making $100,000 a year now. and so he comes in. Oh, by the way, he plays first bass for the Houston Symphony Orchestra.
Oh, my. Are you kidding me?
And so he comes out to my house, and the only time I got to sleep a little late was on Saturday. And my wife says, he's already down there in your pool room. I had a big pool table, all my music gear in the pool room. And I hear him warming up with Fly to the Bumblebee. Oh, shit. I walked in and I said, I really appreciate if you wouldn't start like that. I couldn't play that in a million years, you know? And he laughed. And he said, Norbert, you know, I want you to come down. I go down to the Opry in the summer when I'm home, and I do fiddle tunes up in the higher registers. Higher registers? That's down there at the end of the neck, okay? And he could do that in tune. He'd play all these fiddle tunes.
Oh
3 octaves up, okay? And so he looked at my bow. He says, well, I can see what's wrong. You have the wrong bow. He said, I got to get you a bow and get you the right kind of rosin and show you how to put the rosin to the bow, and it won't squeak anymore. And so we got his Fender bass out, and I showed him how to hold it. And boy, it was a real problem for him, you know, because you hold it like a guitar. And he wanted to hold it so it was upright. And so we worked on that a little bit. The next week, he came out and had a new bow for me, a proper German bow. That cost me some money, but he showed me it was necessary and how to get the proper amount of torque on the bow when you started the bow, you know? And it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. I just had the wrong bow, you know? And so he fixed my bow. He was really something. Nashville, a deep bench of incredible players.
I mean, that is like, I'm trying to think about this one record, Floyd Kramer record that I just found was called Hello Blues. It's the Jazz Cats. Boots Randolph is on. This is early, this is 1960. When did I mean, Kerrigan. I'm trying to think about who was. Buddy Harmon was playing drums. I think. I can't.
Yeah, no, it would have been Buddy Harmon
Yeah.
on drums.
Yes.
Bobby Moore on bass.
That Bobby Moore, right?
And it would have been Hank Garland and probably Grady Martin on guitars.
Dude, Hank. Tell me you went on the road with Hank. Did you ever go on tour with Hank Garland?
No, listen, he crashed his car.
Oh my God.
At the end of 1964, we came to town in early 65, and he never played again.
Get out of here. I did not know that. It makes sense because he did a bunch of records, but then you didn't hear from him again.
No, the damn guy, Harold Bradley and I talked about it.
Right.
And Grady talked about it. He could do anything from blues to he played on some Presley sessions. We did some great rock and roll guitar.
Wow.
And then he had the jazzers come down from New York. You know, real jazz bassist and jazz drummer, and the guy played vibes. What was his name?
Gary Burton.
Yeah, Gary Burton.
Yeah.
And they made records in Nashville.
That's right.
And Harold Bradley, the son of a bitch, would start out in a solo. And you can see he's getting into an area he's not going to be able to get out of this. And he would play his way out of it.
That is so beautiful that you just said that, man. So you that was 65, 60, that was like 67.
Yeah. Well, meanwhile, then Grady has to take over, you know. And Grady was another one who could do anything.
Dude, man, this album is unbelievable. It's called Instrumentally Yours on Decca. As far as I know, you might be playing bass on there. I don't think Bobby's playing bass on it.
Well, another thing about Grady Martin,
yeah,
he was a great bass player.
Really of course he was. No, you told me that. Yeah, I mean, it's But hold on. So I just want to be clear. We still can't remember the cat's name who was the cat who asked you for Fender bass to hold the bass. We can't remember that cat's name.
No, but I've got it here somewhere. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
If you don't get it in a few days, text me, okay?
I will. Yeah, I will.
Listen, I can't keep up with my emails anymore. I've got 16,000 emails that I haven't listened to.
Yeah, no, texting is much. You told me the legendary story about Waylon.
The country bassist was Junior Husky.
Junior. So so Ferlin was a singer. Junior Husky was the bass player.
He was the country bassist. He played the Opry every weekend.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And all the country people, he recorded with most of them. And when they come out to do their latest song, he would remember what he played. And he'd walk out there and do the bass part he played on the record. He was one of about 4 or 5 bass players that were backstage waiting for the act to come out that they'd worked with. Isn't it great? And his son becomes a very famous bassist. Junior died when he was 42 or something like that. And his son was working with Alison Krauss and people like that.
Sure.
He died when he was 42.
No.
So I'm getting an insurance policy. I'm working with Gilfan, McNow, Renner, and Feldman opened an office in Nashville. I was the first act. You know, they were the big LA firm, New York firm.
Right.
And so they were taking out some insurance for myself, life insurance. And they said, you got to go down for a little checkup. Excuse me. A little checkup on Tuesday. Go to the hospital. They're going to see this doctor. So I go over there. There's a little waiting room. I go up to the desk. And she said, can I help you? I said, yes, I have one. She says, what is your name? I said, Norbert Putnam. She leaned back in her chair. And she said, your name is Norbert Putnam? I said, yes. She said, we have a cat named Norbert Putnam.
No, stop.
I said, what?
Stop.
I said, what is your name? She said, well, I'm Junior Husky's wife. Well, it was the son, the Junior Husky the second.
Unbelievable.
Well, guess what? He was listening to my playing with area code 615.
Absolutely.
And he thought and he named his cat after me because he wanted his cat to be cool, he said.
Well, I don't blame him. I'd name my cat.
That's the most bizarre thing you ever heard of in your life.
No, I mean...
But his wife never knew why the cat was named and never asked.
We have a cat named Norbert Putnam. That's the greatest line I've ever heard in my life. I got to ask you, you told me the greatest Christofferson story about him emptying cigarette ashtrays and in the restaurant. Eventually, you got him into the studio. At first, it was like, "What is this?" And then all of a sudden, it became, he was down in New Orleans. But what about do you have like a memory of like an early memory of your work when you worked with Waylon Jennings?
Well, no, because who the hell? I think did Chet produce him? Who was his producer?
Yeah, I'm going to look that up. It was Chet.
Okay, I wasn't Chet's favorite bassist. I was like third or fourth on his call list. Okay.
Was it just the style, or I mean, what was that about? I mean, people are naming their cats after you. Man.
There was a bass player from Birmingham who was 2 or 3 years older than I was, and Chet brought him to Nashville because he could sight read real well, and Chet was playing a lot of symphony gigs, and Nashville needed a junior husky couldn't read music. Okay, Bobby Moore could,
right,
but and I could. But for the most part, none of the country guys could read music. And so Chet brought up from Birmingham, Alabama. Oh, God. I'll give you his name in a second.
No, I'm going to look it up right now. This is important. But basically, but you read music, but, I mean, it's okay. Not everybody's, not everybody's best friends, but even with that, he still wanted to bring in this cat from Birmingham.
No, he'd already brought him in 2 or 3 years before I got there.
Wow.
Okay. And he had become like he was in the top 4 most called bassists because, he could play a little rock and roll. He could play a little jazz. He was really a great player.
Damn.
And his name will come to me in a second.
Yeah, I cannot wait for his name. I mean, I'm loving where you're at right now.
But see, what would have happened if Waylon was making an album, they always did 9 hours of session work to get a 12-song album.
Wow.
If you were a studio guy and you walked into that room with Waylon Jennings, you knew in 3 hours you're going to have 4 tracks finished.
Was this cat's name Bobby Dyson?
Oh, Bobby Dyson. Yes, I remember him. I don't know if he could read at all.
No, that's not the cat from Birmingham though, Alabama.
No?
Yeah.
No, and the guy from Birmingham was a good reader. As a matter of fact,
all right.
I remember playing double bass dates with him where he plays the acoustic bass and I play the Fender.
Oh my! See, this is the greatest. Are you kidding me, dude?
Well, it had become kind of they could blend the two together as long as we were playing the same note, right?
Absolutely.
And since the part was written out, we played the same note. And they blended together, and it was a really big bass sound. And I remember doing Eddie Arnold one day.
Right.
And Eddie would record with a pretty big orchestra. And we had the 2 basses. I played Fender and he played upright. And I have to tell you, this guy also played on Dylan's albums when he came down from New York.
Really?
He was on all... Yeah, because... What was the producer's name who did Dylan? Bob what?
Well, God, now I'm falling apart. I mean,
anyway.
No, because Nashville Skyline, that's Charlie Daniels. But I have to look. I'll look. We got to get this cat's name. But I'm sorry. I want you to finish the Waylon story because you're listed on these albums. Some of his albums.
Well, you think I remember it? First of all, I never had any of the records. When you're working all the time,
sure.
Oh, the record label doesn't call you up and say, "Come by and get a copy of that album you played on 3-4 months ago."
Right, exactly.
But I do remember Waylon was such a nice guy. Okay, and I don't think I played for him often because I wasn't first call. But years after that, I would be in a restaurant or something, he'd come over and say, Norbert, how you doing? Well, I think he followed my career, my development.
Everybody was following your career, dude.
Well, I'll tell you another one. There were 2 or 3 of them, the early guys that I worked on. They were always checking on me.
Who was that? Yeah.
Willie Nelson. I did a Willie Nelson album that when I got there in 65, or it might have been 65 or 66. We did, who else did we do? Felton Jarvis had been the producer who came to Muscle Shoals and brought the Tams when we did What Kind of Fool Do You Think I Am?
That's right.
Felton was from Atlanta, And he ended up getting a job in Nashville running ABC Records up there. And that was another reason we wanted to get to Nashville. And, of course, Ray Stevens had been down here arranging Atomic Row record. And had written out parts for all of us, and we couldn't read them. And he took us to dinner that night and said, you guys played pop music better than any rhythm section in Nashville. Because they played country. And they're all 35 and 40 years old now. And, and we need someone that can play with the young acts. That's what
Felton Jarvis said. Yeah.
Yeah. And Ray Stevens said, but you got to get your sight reading together. He said, Ray at that time was making a living as an orchestrator arranger. He could write music as fast as Mozart. He could write strings and violas and cellos as fast as he could think of them. And he could write a bass part, And so I grabbed the book. And also, Rick Hall was saying to Briggs and I, you guys learn to write strings so I don't have to go.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
And the horns is like Memphis horns, where you got 4 horns.
Sure.
You got a trumpet, you got a tenor, and you got a baritone, and you got a trombone. And that was so I went down. This is sort of an interesting thing that happened with Henry Mancini when he came in. I think he came in 69. And I went down to, in 69, I get a call to get to play with Mancini. He's coming in to do country standards. And Henry's going to play piano. And every note that was played by that natural rhythm section, they read it. A buddy Spiker who played violin.
Yes.
But he could read a little bit, though, too. So probably he might have read that part and made it more fiddle-like, But we got down to the session, and Kerrigan, who came out of school in Florence, was a good sight reader for drums. We did big band sessions together,
Wait a minute. Wait. Stop. You and him were kicking a big band together?
Well, Al Hurt would come in. I think we did 4 or 5 albums with Al Hurt.
That is so
and about
badass.
A 45-piece band.
Oh my God.
So we'd have 20 strings. We'd have 4 trumpets, 4 bones, sometimes an 8-voice choir, 3 percussionists, I don't know. And everything was pretty much written out, okay? And so we had some experience with doing that, because I was going to get it on the first take, He was, I think he went to the Curtis Institute. He was a conservatory trumpet player. And I think I told you the story. He goes to New York. He meets Doc Severinsen. And Doc played with him and said, fuck, you're great, And Doc was NBC Orchestra in New York. He was playing every night on his night show with Clark Terry. Doc Severinsen and Clark Terry.
Oh, my God. Get it out. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Yeah, no, Ed Shaughnessy. Yeah.
And so Al Hurt's up there, and he's just not getting any work. He's going down doing a few jazz gigs, setting in with you. And one day, Severinsen calls him. He said, okay, I got a gig for you. New York Philharmonic is doing this piece. It's one of the great Italian composers. Really difficult piece.
Right.
The first trumpet is sick, and he can't play. They call me. I can't do it because I've got Tonight Show band. And I told the conductor in those days would have been Bernstein. He said, I told Lenny that I'll send you a guy who can play. It was the Puccini part. He said, it's difficult. I know a guy can play it, but when he comes in, don't say anything to him. Ask him to play it for you and rehearse it with the band once. Do not open your mouth to this guy. And so Al Hurt goes strolling on stage, Philharmonic Hall, New York Philharmonic, and Lenny Bernstein looks at this giant of a guy, and they said the look on his face was, this guy couldn't possibly play the trumpet. He takes his trumpet and burns the fucking Puccini part, and Lenny ran across and leaped into the air and hung off him, hugging. Right?
Oh.
And Leonard Bernstein told the guys at RCA to sign him, and he got his record deal. How's that?
That's a great.
And so we would do that crap, you know. But oh hell, I got to go down and have some food.
Hey man, I was gonna say, can we do set 2 of our interview? I really would love to do another part of our interview. We've been talking about it for a while.
Well, yeah.
I was thinking, I mean, I don't know if you're going to be up on the roof tomorrow morning, but we could do something early in the morning your time if you wanted.
Oh no! I'll tell you what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
I'm completing a bunch of notes for chapters in the book. I've been writing about some of the actors, you know, Robert Mitchum and Clint Eastwood, and also my experiences down in Mississippi, Morgan Freeman. You know.
Oh, whoa.
So I'm going to talk about some of the actors and some, because those are all interesting guys, you know. And so a lot of the chapters in the book, I'm not really playing the bass, you know.
No, I think but it's equally.
I was. Yeah. When Mitchum came down, I was playing the bass, and we did the Little Old Wine Drinker Me, and it's an interesting story because Mitchum had found this song and had taken it to his friend Dean Martin. And Martin says, it's a piece of shit. I'd never do a song like that. Mitchum said, I'll bet you $1,000 that it'd be a fucking top 10 record, even if I sing it. And Mitchum, you know, he did the vocal on what was that? Something about when he played the Revenuer who drove whiskey through the mountains with the Revenuers chasing him and shooting pistols at him. Well, anyway. Fred Foster calls me and said, Mitchum's made this bet. We're going to do the song. And I can probably make top 10 in the country with it. And that's a great story. So I started outlining that. And then I got a call to orchestrate a record for Clint Eastwood, he's just come back from all the spaghetti western things. He's about to do Paint Your Wagon, the Broadway play.
Right.
And he's taking vocal lessons, and somebody gave him a record deal. and they hired me to write it's going to be strings and woodwinds, and then the quartet, I think it was. And it was